The system of metal casting that you are about to witness is a modified version of the two traditional techniques, the Italian lost wax or cire perdue process and the Dokra system of metal casting used in India. The man responsible for devising and pioneering this new technique is Mr. Basudeb, who has worked on it for 28 long years. Unlike the traditional systems that are cumbersome and elaborate, the modified version is not only convenient and more scientific, but also economical and handy. The lost wax process has been around for 5,000 years and was used to create beautiful bronze pieces by Greeks, Africans, and masters of Italian Renaissance. Closer home, the Dokra system of metal casting, a somewhat similar method, is used by a group of craftsmen settled in West Bengal, Orissa, and Madhya Pradesh. Here is a brief outline of this process of metal casting. A replica of the desired product is made of wax with all its finer details of designs and decorations. A few coats of clay are applied over the wax model and allowed to dry. The model is then baked and the wax in the model is replaced with molten metal to create beauteous forms and enchanting metal pieces. The first step is the conception of an idea. The artist visualizes and comes up with a mental picture of the art form that he wishes to create. A basic sketch of the work is first made on paper. Mr. Basudeb is seen here using multiple refills to create a basic sketch of the art piece. The multiple refills help to make prominent contours and lend depth and form to the picture. The sketch is a work of art in itself. Beeswax, the first and the most important ingredient, is first procured in its natural shape. This is chipped and broken into small pieces using a hammer and chisel. This wax is melted in a utensil. Color is added to the wax. This color is essential to create dimensions and depth. The melted wax is filtered with a cotton cloth to obtain a smooth consistency. Clay is used to create a boundary or raised surface to prevent the wax from dripping or running in all directions. The wax is poured onto the hard surface and allowed to cool. The solidified wax pieces are then removed. Now the wax is ready to be used and shaped. It is heated on a candle and molded into a desired shape. The different pieces are glued to each other by heating both sides. Next step is the preparation of the unique mixture. Water is added to cow dung and the mixture is strained using a cotton cloth. The cow dung waste is kept aside to be used later on, and the diluted and strained cow dung is now ready. Sandy clay is beaten and the powder sifted using a cotton cloth. The diluted cow dung is now mixed with the clay powder to make a mixture that can be used to coat the figure. 3 coats of this mixture are applied on the wax figure. Each coat is allowed to dry before the next one is applied. These coatings are helpful in highlighting the finer details on the surface of the image. The second mixture is now prepared with the help of cow dung waste and sandy clay powder. This acts as a filler and helps to cover up the flaws such as gaps and holes. A very light touch has to be used at this stage. Any extra pressure could damage and cause the figure to crack. The figure is hung and left to dry. A third kind of mixture is prepared by mixing fine clay with rice husk and sand. This is mixed thoroughly to reduce the plasticity of clay and make it more porous, thereby assisting the metal casting process. The dried figure is moistened with water and this mixture is applied on its surface. The wax is scraped off to expose the sprue or channel, as it is commonly called. A funnel is created on the top with this mixture. This funnel serves the dual purpose. It helps to balance the mold during the baking process, and it is through the funnel that the molten metal is poured into the mold. Then an armature of wires is created to serve as a protective covering for the mold. The mold is moistened and the last layer of the mixture is applied, making the mold resemble a pillar. The mold is allowed to dry naturally. The process takes a couple of hours in summers. The molds are then put in the center of the furnace so that dry wood can be arranged on both sides of the molds for proper heating. The furnace is covered to prevent the heat from escaping. The wax begins to melt and flow out of the molds. This wax is collected in a container and recycled. The molds are now solid. They are gently removed from the furnace after they have cooled down. The channels are checked for any obstruction. The molds are placed with the cap facing upwards in a box filled with sand. Metal is heated and broken into small pieces. The metal scrap is filled into a non-metal container called the crucible. This container is lowered into the furnace. A fan is placed on one side of the furnace to help produce the right intensity of heat, approximately 1000 degrees centigrade. The impurities in the metal are removed. Using a pair of tongs, the container is lifted and the molten metal is poured into the funnel of the mold in one go. The mold is broken after the metal cools down. brushed to remove the debris. The casting imperfections are cleaned up and rough edges reworked by the artist. The channels are removed. The thrill and satisfaction of the artist on holding the metal form that emerges equals, if not surpasses, the wonder and excitement of a new mother as she holds her baby for the very first time. The metal oxides are thoroughly cleaned from the surface by brushing the sculpture with diluted nitric acid. A metal brush is used for this purpose. After the thorough cleaning, it is time to prepare the two patinas. This is a chemical process. Nitric acid is made to react with iron and copper individually. Iron patina, when applied, lends the piece a reddish-brownish tinge, whereas the copper gives it a greenish effect. Sometimes, both can be used simultaneously to create an antique look. The sculpture is heated during the application of patina. The finished product is now lightly waxed to preserve its patina and give it a glazed look. The beautiful pieces made by Mr. Basudeb are marked by their simplicity yet excellent craftsmanship and creativity. They have been displayed in art galleries and exhibitions and have received tremendous appreciation. They are every art lover's dream possessions and are much in demand in India and abroad.